We, communities of color, workers, migrants, grandfathers, grandmothers, abuelitas, babies, young folks, indigenous ancestors, aboriginal people who have spent time, love, and tears caring, loving these communities, these barrios, these gardens.
This tree, this garden, this flower, for generations, centuries, and time beyond Gregorian missionary calendars.
Who have been displaced, gentrified, removed by the forces of money, power, real estate speculation, philanthropy, redevelopment, criminalization, gentrification, and now only exists as a cultural memory, an artifact, erased,
forgotten completely as we were never here.
Gentrification tours exist to document the theft, reclaim, and take back the stolen spaces.
the memories, the pictures, the lives, the dreams.
To tour and document the default colonizers' 21st century missionaries, the erased and colonized culture and cultural stealers, to reinsert ourselves in the stolen landmark and to reclaim what little of us might still be left.
Gentrification tours are us. Coming soon to a displaced gentrified neighborhood in so-called Seattle near you.
Muteado silencio, we crossed the border crossed us. Muteado silencio, presente y me alegro, mis palabras son mis balas, mi lápiz es mi arma, my words are bullets, our pen is our gun. So sit back and relax, because we're going to drop out your minds.
I want to share with you who I really am. This is my celebration piece. Because believe it or not, I had an identity crisis. I wanted to be like you, and like you, and like you. Anything but black. But now, I am that black woman that I am, who's celebrating my deliverance, liberation, and freedom from the broken chains of lies and deceit. I am that black woman that I am, who no longer has to hide my face with that awful mask of shame and ignorance, but now I unveil it, reveal it, magnify it. And I'm talking about the true beauty and strength that was always there. For you see, I am that black woman that I am. Hallelujah! I have finally found my way out of those dark jungles of darkness and confusion, and finally into the paradise of light and truth. I am that black woman that I am, who is reunited with my children of the universe. And I'm talking about the beginning of creation. And now I nourish them once again from my bosom that flows the milk of life. For you see, now I am proud to be that black woman that I am.
And all this is for all the people. They're looking at us up and down, and they don't know why we come to this town. We come to this town to support indigenous, black and brown, to stay in their own town.
Evicted, swept, and kicked. Evicted, evicted, swept, and kicked. Because settler towns like this don't give a shit. You see that houseless mom and daughter sleeping in a tent? I said, did you see that houseless mom and daughter sleeping in a tent? Right back there hiding. That's because we don't got money for the rent. I'm a poverty scholar, that houseless mama, that houseless daughter. All those people that you don't want to see, look away from me. What you gonna do, arrest me? We're in your city. Yeah, I'm a poverty scholar, and I rock my jailhouse attire, not because my orange is the new black or any Hollywood jacket, I'm telling you that. It's because me and my mama did jail time for the poverty crime of being unhoused in these occupied indigenous hollers. Yeah, I'm a poverty scholar, the melanin challenged daughter of a strong, affable, equal mama, but without whom there would be no me, a mama soltera and a welfare queen. Yes.
Yeah, again, this is just some of us co-poets from Poor Magazine Hopefulness Project right here in occupied lands of Seattle. And again, all of us coming out of struggle, coming out of poverty, also crossing these borders they were made after colonization that separated indigenous peoples in this land, like myself and my brother Israel had crossed these borders with our families, again in the search of a better opportunities for our families. And again, all of us coming to struggle, uniting and creating what we call Poor Magazine and Hopefulness.
Anthropology, ethnography, psychology, the study about us, without us, our spirits, our cultures, our traditions, through your lens, deconstructing our struggles while our communities are dismantled and left in rubble. Acquired with academic privilege, linguistic domination gifts, long ago sorted and separated, parsed out in the American school system, the cult of independence and the myth of inclusion. How are you gonna fly to Seattle, India, and Bangladesh, but not so much as cut off a little piece of your academic privilege and access? How are you gonna come back to your 21st century thesis and final grades on your test with our stories, our love, our struggles? Yeah, so we got a new kind of brothership, sistership, mothership, fellowship. And it's written and created and directed and liberated by all of us poor folks, gente pobre, the world over. It's called Poverty Scholarship.
The notion of poverty scholarship was born in the Calles, prisons, street corners, community centers, welfare offices, shelters, kitchen tables, assembly lines, tenements, favelas, projects, and ghettos. All the places people don't look for educators, experts, leaders, researchers, lecturers, linguists, artists, creative thinkers, writers, and media producers.
Poverty scholars are told our knowledge is not valid or legitimate. Our speech is improper, our work and our choices are criminal, our words are inept. Poverty scholars like us are silenced, incarcerated, criminalized, displaced, houseless, disabled, marginalized, sorted, separated, and extinguished, and rarely, if ever, listened to. So again, welcome and thank you to the beautiful warriors here at the Freedom Socialist Party. Thank you for inviting us in. Thank you to the warriors who are here also from Real Change News. I don't know if folks showed up from, I know there's fellow houseless folks in this stolen settler town. So we appreciate you, we love you. We've kicked it with them before. We know that they do the good work, trying to stand with and also being of the communities that we're from. And also thank you to this space, to all of the warriors who keep it going, and to our beautiful family from so-called Bellingham, Mariah and Deepa Sleepa, and all the folks trying to build their own hopefulness in this occupied territory. We're here humbly bringing and sharing this medicine of what Poor Magazine is and what homefulness is. Homefulness. Can I get a witness? Can we say that together? Homefulness. What it isn't is a non-profiteer grant. What it isn't is a government gangster notion. What it isn't is opted and stolen by developers who continue to displace and gentrify poor people like us out of hoods like this. And so we need to hold all of that as we're sharing this medicine tonight. And we're going to talk a little bit about what really we are done and what we're doing and what we gladly would love to support and we're here to do, as we're doing right now in so-called Bellingham, Washington. But before we do any of that, we have to start tonight in a good way. We are not in this room right now, as far as we know, with any folks representing the First Nations people of this land, the Amish and the Coast Salish territory that we're standing on. But my brother, my beautiful brother Muteado and Frances and myself are all humble prayer bringers as well. So I'm going to ask Muteado to start us in a good way for the first peoples of this land.
Well, thank you, Tiny. And again, thank you for acknowledging the First Nation people of these lands. And again, just bringing all of our ancestors and recognizing too that this is a Teocalli. Teocalli means home of knowledge in Nahuatl, in the Aztec language. And so we acknowledge that too, this beautiful place of knowledge, of sharing our own life's experience. So just bringing all of our ancestors and also, doing that work of decolonization, of really telling the truth. So if we could just bow our heads and close our eyes real quick, and we're going to do a prayer, just bringing all of the ancestors from all walks of life to be here with us, to keep helping us to share this medicine of truth-telling, and again, of decolonizing our minds, our hearts. Again, thank you to my family at Poor Magazine, Homefulness. Again, these beautiful Teocalli, home of creation, home of knowledge, with all these beautiful books, all these beautiful radical art. Again, Creator asking that many more places like this keep growing and keep developing our community to spread this knowledge and medicine. And again, asking Creator to bring all our ancestors and open our hearts and minds to this beautiful night. Oh, Mateo es Dios. Amen.
And so just coming out of that, I don't know if you want to say any more about what Poor Magazine is, just a little bit to launch us. Well, I'm going to turn it over to Frances.
It's really, really simple, but yet complex because of capitalism. But if we could just imagine unselling Mother Earth, piece by piece. If we could just imagine listening to the poor people's solution would be homefulness. So I want everybody to say after me. Poor people's solution to homelessness.
Poor people's solution to homelessness
is homefulness.
Is homefulness.
It did take a bit of work. And we started out by doing the stolen land tours. We were arrogant enough to go all over the United States, knocking on rich and the famous doors, offering the medicine of redistribution. Now we might knock on 100 doors, but there might be 35 doors that understood exactly where we were coming from. There might be 35 doors that understand that they have stolen wealth and hoarded resources. So we give thanks to what we call our solidarity family, who kicked into that blood-stained dollars that enabled us to unsell Mother Earth, and we have Hopefulness One who is now, after so much tugging and pulling and having to be going through the capitalistic, the city politics that stinks and trying to hold us back, you know what I'm saying, because it's something that they never heard of. So this is a template, Homefulness is a template. And we're hoping that here in Seattle, so-called Seattle, can use that template and surely. So after going through all of the rigmarole, you know, that the city will take you through, we finally were able to open our doors and house people. So that's Homefulness number 1.
Oh.
So we're taking it back parcel by parcel, and we're looking forward to Homefulness 2.
Monte, did you want to add anything?
Well, we just always, acknowledging for all of our poverty scholars, which we're going to be breaking down the term, what's a poverty scholars, which is all of us coming out of poverty, always acknowledge that none of us come from educational privilege, all of us only have a high school education, but yet the determination and the love that we have for our people and our community got us together in this beautiful movement, self-determination movement that we call Poor Magazine Homeless. It's already a manifestation in East Oakland, in the San Francisco Bay Area, like Auntie Frances was saying, which is already housing several families. And again, just recognize this because in this country, again, because we speak broken English, because we are not documented, they told us that we're not smart. They told us because we don't have an architect a degree that we are not builders. Yet we want to say that before colonization, civilizations, our ancestors already had pyramids. Our ancestors were already architects and already builders. And so this is what we're also doing with Poor Magazine. All of us coming out of struggle and again building confidence literally with ourselves and with the help of the community who know about framing, about foundation, about electrical conduits and codes, which is what the city of Oakland and San Francisco Bay Area made us go through rigorous, the codes that enforced, and it was nonsense. Again, it was to keep on discouraged to hopefully stop us, but obviously it didn't work.
Do you see that houseless mom and daughter sleeping in a tent? I know that all you conscious people in here understand what I meant. So I'm going to say it again. Did you see the houseless mom and daughter sleeping in a tent? Probably not, because we look away so we can hide away from the violent act of looking away. So before we can even talk about homefulness, we have to talk about what my sister Auntie Frances says, radical redistribution. We live in a capitalist system. That's what all you warriors in this beautiful space are constantly fighting against. You're fighting it ethically, you're fighting it spiritually, you're fighting it politically with your bodies, your minds, and your words. But we're in a war against poor people in this occupied land. I don't have to tell you that in August they did a sweep. Let's break down those words. As hygienic metaphors about human bodies like we are trash. Me and Ma survived those sweeps barely. Our entire lives were swept away, but now we were no longer considered people with lives. We were considered trash. And so once you've objectified something into a thing, now you can sweep it. But you can also not listen to it. And you can also consider it an it. And so now I'm no longer a human. I am a paper cup, or a hefty bag, or a piece of trash that needs to be recycled. And therein lies the violence. Because now I no longer have scholarship. So this is why we created this book. And I do want to say that going all the way back, as we're taking us through this journey, and some of you might come to the movie showing tomorrow. I encourage you to, because Peter here, Peter Mancini, he did a beautiful short movie based on the children's book When Mom and Me Lived Outside. But I'll take you back on a micro journey of that. So when me and Ma were basically on the street, which happened, like it does for many people you see and many people you don't see, happened to us because my mom lost her job. She became disabled and she could no longer work. This is not a thing that happens once in a while. It happens all the time in a capitalist system, which I do call it capitalist. And I have my Potionary, Poor People's Dictionary, in the back of that book, and also in the Sidewalk Motel that we did. But my point being is that my mom, who was a mixed-race child who had struggled with violence and abuse being done to her physical body, abused and molested over 210 times by the time she was 3 years old, in orphanages, was an unprotected child. She grew up, and those violations did not suddenly go away, as they do not on any of our broken bodies. And so we hold on by a thread, and we continue on the bullshit hamster wheel by any means necessary. And then sometimes, like Mama said, we can't keep on keeping on. And so that becomes our solution, is to end up outside. At that point, we now become criminalized, we become objectified, and now we are swept like trash. Again, look at those hygienic metaphors said about human bodies. So this happened to us, and it broke us. The car that we were living in was towed away. I was incarcerated for 3 months. I wear my jail suit, again, not because it's cute or orange is the new black or any trash. Hollywood will sell you that. It's because I did 3 months in county jail for the act of being unhoused in so-called Berkeley, occupied Colonial LaShawn territory. Shout out to Sister Karina Gould and Deja and Cheyenne and Kai and Inaya and Shane and so many of the warriors who are still here 529 years later, and who we worked alongside to create a landless poor indigenous peoples movement called Homefulness. But at that time, in 1996, we almost died. And died because we could not keep on keeping on. These little murders of the soul, which my beautiful mama called them, oftentimes kill us or destroy us. And so when you see our brothers and sisters caught in these different webs of colonial addiction by the different forms of man's poison that's always so readily available, just like all the bougie food is so readily unavailable to us poor people. That's why. Because we can't continue keeping on and keeping on. And the good and well-minded non-profiteers that make money on the product called poverty never listen to us, rarely if ever work with us, and continue as do corporate media and politics to create and legislate, or legislate as I call it, about us without us. So coming out of that struggle, many more things happened, which I detail in Criminal Poverty, which is a memoir I did, and many years later. The reality that as poor people, we needed to come together. As houseless folks, we had solutions. As poets and writers and artists and conceptualists, we are not a monolith just because we no longer have a roof. We just happen to not have the blood-stained dollars it takes to keep us inside. So we are no different from anyone in this room who is housed. We just don't have those same resources. And in a capitalist society, that means that you are outside. So again, we need to disconnect these lies that are told about people just because they don't have enough access to blood-stained dollars. And I do call them that, and I'm sure all you conscious people know why. But anyway, coming out of that, we realized we had to work together. It was very difficult. It's not utopic for us poor people to organize ourselves. It's very hard because we're constantly dealing with the trauma that this system puts on us. The drama that we continue to fight ourselves sometimes more than the world killing us. So we continued with that, and we worked on it, and me and Mom stayed together, and I worked alongside my mom until the day she transitioned, because as a good Indigenous daughter, we do not practice the cult of separation, the cult of actually discommunication, and the continued way that the oppressive system continues to destroy all poor families. So coming out of that, and many, many, many years later, it was Mama's dream. As we're sitting outside in those park benches, those bus shelters, those tents, and as we were being swept as though we were trash, to create homefulness. And in 1996, the first edition of Poor Magazine, which we do have a copy of here, was actually published. It was very difficult to do that, and we did it. And 24 years later, we're standing on the sacred land, the sacred Ohlone Shan land that is homefulness, as my sister Auntie Frances said. Thank you for that. Thank you for that love. But as traumatized and broken people, the pain that we carry is constant. And so we are constantly in trauma, trying to disconnect and diffuse the drama that continues to hurt and perpetrate against our poor people's bodies and our poor mamas. So I say that to say we come up to so-called Seattle, occupied coastal Salish territory, with this humble prayer that there could be a homefulness here. Just like there could be a homefulness in so-called Olympia, just like there could be a homefulness in LA, in occupied Tonga territory, and in the Bronx, and on the list goes. But guess what it takes? It doesn't take more fetishizing of poor people's bodies. It doesn't take more confusion about the concepts of what we should do about the homeless problem, like we now are a problem and not human. It takes listening to the poor people in your towns. It takes breaking off actively the hoarded and stolen wealth and land that exists in every one of these settler towns. And it exists in perhaps this room. There could be people in this room that have access to a trust fund. If any of you do, and I'm not joking, see me afterwards. Because I don't play about bullshit like this. There is no more time for Mama Earth. And while we do not do this for money, we make no money. I'm on EBT. I don't get paid for what I do. I don't get paid to help myself try to unsell Mama Earth. But what we do is that we try to walk with, stand with, listen to, and activate other poor people in their own sovereignty, in their own solutions that they already have. But it cannot happen without the absolute solidarity walk of folks with stolen and hoarded resources. And that could be in many different ways. That could be the people that you know. The AKKdemia job that you have, where you happen to know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who can make something happen. We have an architect who leveraged his paper, that AKKdemia paper that, like my brother Muteado said in an institution, and he was an architect, even though my brother Muteado and my brother Israel are badass fucking architects. But they didn't have institutional privilege like that, so they don't have a paper that says they are. But this brother, Bob Tice, we love you, a very conscious white man who leveraged his architectural privilege and wrote over $40,000 worth of architectural plans so that we could infiltrate, to liberate in the fake-ass politics that's the city of Oakland, the city of Seattle, the city of Bronx, all these other fucking places that think they own Mama Earth. So this is an activation night, family, and I hope that you actually hear this prayer and consider that possibility, because we are humbly here to steward that process wherever and however people are ready to move. So having said that, thank you everybody. We're gonna read a little bit because we're also poets. The Poets Project of Poor Magazine. And so we're gonna read a little from our beautiful books. I do want to say Poor Magazine is in fact Poe, and we do need your dough. So if you can kick down a little of it, buy a book here and there, we would appreciate that. We didn't get paid to do this tour. Nobody met us at the airport. Although we have the beautiful warrior family, Araya and Viva Sleep, who are here for so-called Bellingham, and we love you for actively operating the Solidarity family in so-called Bellingham and now Olympia, so that can happen here, family. We've already got a powerful group up here. It just needs more members to support and actually buy, and then unsell Mama Earth. It's not a Winnie and Pooh in the sunset story, folks. We're dealing with a capitalist system. It's straight cash, real talk. But anyway, that said, we're going to read. We encourage you to listen open your ears and your heart, and then maybe you can ask questions and think about purchasing a book. So you're going to start, Auntie? Okay, Mute.
Sure. And then this is knowledge that you can find right here, poverty scholarship knowledge. It comes from your abuelitas, it comes from your grandmas, your grandpas, and it's called Purple Corn. Purple Corn reminds me of my grandma back in Michoacan land, teaching my mom how to sing the songs of keeping the struggle alive. With beans and rice, with love and sacrifice. With beans and rice, with love and sacrifice. With patience and not waiting for the right time. Las tortillas a mano, just like you craft movimiento, con cuidado, you need to know how. See, and even though I remember my grandma, mi abuelita, because I was too young to recall, I taste the revolution on my mama's cooking. Y las abuelitas, Ashata Shakur, las mujeres de Chiapas and Oaxaca, and indigenous people throughout the world, reminds us of the rebel spirit that lives in our people, nuestra gente valiente, fighting for more than 530 years, and we are still here, and we are still here.
Whee! Okay. Well, we're going to do a couple, and Auntie Frances is looking for her piece. You know, I also do want to just real talk, because we're always all about real talk. It's hard for us poor people to travel because we take the pain that we're coming from always with us. I want to lift up Auntie Frances, who today had a little fall on the way here as an elder, and is still in this room kicking down like a badass that she is. And so, tell me when you're ready. Come on up. All right.
All right. So, this is the making of Auntie Volume 2. I'm proud to say, because I don't like to say it like this, but to make it clear, they say that I have a learning disability. So, I'm 67 years old, and when I came to poor, you know, always being the slowest one in the class and this and that, you know, right on the borderline with the special ed and group 4 and all that. So, and this is accomplishment for me because after, you know, I really wasn't feeling academia. No, not at all. So, accomplishing this is my second book, and it chronicles my life. I wasn't always Auntie Frances. I was born Frances Michelle Moore. But I've been a servant of the people for many, many moons, getting my experience from the Black Panther Party. And one thing I did learn one of the many things I learned when I was in the party was using food as a tool to organize community. So I am the visionary of the Self-Help Hunger Program with the backing of Poor Magazine as well. So I'm going to start with Nielsen Street. In the 60s, there was a concept of integration, right? So, it sounds good, but here it goes. I just had it. Okay, bear with me. Okay. Hold on. No, I can't believe this. I had it right. Okay. So Nelson Street was a so-called good part of town. It was highly integrated. So my neighborhood was wholesome on the outside, but on the inside, the story was much, much more complicated. Racism, trauma, abuse, and neglect could be found everywhere. From my Bay Area family life to my time in Houston, Texas, from there it was to the children's home, to the foster home, and everything in between. Hurt just seemed to follow me everywhere. Growing up as a revolutionary, looking for love and community was a little difficult. And even though my life started in what seemed and appeared to be a good community, eventually I would find that family, a kind of family created by people going through the same things as me. But first, there was Nelson Street, North Berkeley, the good side of town, the vision of everyone integrated together. But the reality of this vision caused me identity crisis. I wanted to be white. After all, my best friends were white, all my friends were white and rich. But I came from a broken home. And my mother's family was color-struck. So being as colonized as they were, while appearing politically correct, the hatred was well hidden. But they hated themselves. And so they lashed out at me for being dark-skinned, for being a constant reminder of who they really were. These folks were all shades of black, and the public they were part of was that bourgeois diversity. But behind closed door, I was just that dark-skinned ghetto girl to them. Now school wasn't much better. The bullies lined up every morning, so I was smart enough to pay them off, to leave me the hell alone. I will never forget that time the most popular girl threatened me, beat me up after school. In other words, I hated school. There was where I spent most of my time in North Berkeley, the good side of town, but I was black as night in a world where white was right. Big lips, pug nose, and the desire to be just the opposite. And I really, really believed that blacks had more fun. That Natanola bleaching cream was shoved in my face. I remember watching my sister put sweaters on her head and putting clothespins at the end of the sleeves to give her that swing. This was as close as she was going to get to having white people's hair. Now, and then there were the clothespins my grandma encouraged me to put on my nose in hopes it would straighten it. She did it because she loved me. I do believe that. She wanted me to fit into society with my appearances. And so when naturals came out, it was a blessing, because there were people that looked like me. And the book goes on. Thank you for listening.
Moot is hella humble, but I'm gonna ask you to come up and read a little bit of your beautiful book, which is in and of itself a powerful part of the humbleness movement. Is our multi-nation spirit work.
Actually, there will be no reading for me today. There's a why though. One of the things, that a lot of folks don't know is that before pre-colonization, our ancestors, the Aztecs, the Purépecha, the Otomí, the Huichol, we didn't have Spanish, right? We didn't have the English letters, the alphabet as we know it now. A lot of the ancestors, the way they left storytelling and the way they left important information that were meant to pass down to the coming generations was through this thing called codices, which is literally drawings. They are still found and being found in different pyramids in Mexico and in Teotihuacan. And again, it's signs that they tell stories. There are more and more folks from the communities, indigenous folks, are helping us decipher some of these codices.
Yeah.
And again, so this is just a book for like our youth. To learn what these symbols are. Again, we can't really read them. It's more about analyzing what they mean. And there's a little English version with English alphabet, Latin alphabet, or whatever the alphabet is called. The details a little bit about what each image after being deciphered by indigenous peoples of our lands. And so, again, a lot of these images, it speaks a simple stuff about the seasons, the changes of Mother Earth through the seasons, about the equinoxes, stuff like that, about the rain. Some of these images speak about the rain, the drought, stuff like that that our people have endured. And that's my reading. Thank you so much.
I just want to say, before I share a little bit, that Muteado, Frances, Israel, it wasn't me on the ones and twos here, Junebug, Kuinali, Amir, Akil, Tibu, Amin Ra, Mama Blue, Audrey Candy Corn. Oh my God, there's so many people in our village. Again, Auntie Karina Gould, Fui Lupe, Loa. There's so many people in our village who aren't here with us tonight. I'm not saying village in the way that the white collar trickster said it. I'm saying it in the way of our ancestors in all of our nations knew it, which is that it absolutely is the way that us humans need to bring back in the ways that we operate interdependently, not the cult of independence. I want to encourage everyone in this room to sign up for the upcoming seminar, the Decolonization, Degentrification Seminar. It's a 2-day seminar on Zoom. All of the warriors that you met tonight and all more, many, many more, along with prayer bringers and spirit carriers, are part of the teaching village that helps you unlearn the 529 years of capitalist domination that you have been taught. So I urge you to come to it. It is not about us teaching you. It is about you unlearning the bullshit that you've all been laid upon that has got us where we are today. So in this time when Mama Earth is so hurting, it is absolutely urgent for us to move a different way and to humbly understand that there are many things we need to unlearn, even those among us who think that we are conscious. And so in this beautiful space, I want to humbly invite you to that. It's on Zoom, as I said, and it's in January. And if any of you are interested in launching a homefulness up here, you most definitely need to go to People's School. And even if you're not. The other thing is that I hope you come to the film tomorrow. Again, Peter did this beautiful film of this book. But the book is When Mama and Me Lived Outside, and it's about me and Mama's journey through houselessness on the street. We spent over 9 years in and out of homelessness. It doesn't end because you get a college trickster or a non-profiteer grant, or like I always say, no matter how many times you study me, jail me, or sweep me, it doesn't give me a home. But what it really does with this book and many of the books, Sister Angel Heart, shout out to her as well, and many more, is to introduce a different protagonist to our babies. They need to be hearing, seeing, and visioning that it is possible for them to see a different version of themselves. As well, people and children who are housed need to learn about their fellow sisters and brethren who are in our schools today. Over 63% in the city of LA are houseless or marginally housed. Over 38% in the Bay Area. And on the list goes. It is an absolute crisis. So the reason that we write these books is to help our babies to see a different way to live. Lastly, that the Homefulness Handbook is really a primer, how to actually build a homeless, landless people's movement, self-determined movement. So and then there's also how to not call the police ever. And depending on how much you know about us, you know that as a poor and houseless people-led movement, we never engage with the people who test, arrest, and incarcerate us. That's a very difficult thing to do. Just saying abolish prisons is beautiful, but it is absolutely abolishing police and abolishing prisons is a beautiful hashtag. But the work of actually unlinking ourselves from that settler state is absolutely difficult, especially for us traumatized people. So I urge you to check that out. So I'm going to read a piece from my first poetry anthology that I released called The Sidewalk Motel. It's a short one. Paper bags made of memories, side by side, chair frames and baby toys, jackets and toothbrushes, coffee cans and pillows, wrapped up in paper bags made of memories. Nylon homes buried under lives made of storms. These aren't the storms of rain and thunder, steel, sleet, or hail. These raindrops include sheriff boots, eviction notices. This thunder is made by the sound of your home bouncing on the pavement. The lightning is a polarized flashlight shining in your car window. And hail-filled slices of foreclosure papers. Humans walking softly on Mama Earth, permanently outside. Thank you. Again, Mama Earth is in pain, and there's so many things that we could say about that. But first off and foremost, climate change is bullshit. It's called climate terrorism. And Mama Earth is under attack. And that's what I call it, corporations are absolutely to blame. I want to lift up again, because Peter has done a great documentary of Danziger, right? The brother who stood up to Chevron. Should check it out. But hopefulness is also about loving Mama Earth. Because we can talk about climate terrorism all day and twice on Sundays, but until we unsell her and unsettle her, we will never be able to stop destroying her. And so I want us to hold that prayer and how it's linked with our houseless and poor bodies all over Mama Earth, as we're the first and worst who deal with all of that climate terrorism. It's called the privilege of breathing. As you sit under your roofs and complain about the soup, washing, air quality index soared to the roof, I must remind all of you living in places so you can shelter in safely of so many of us still outside, evicted behind the lie of rent, the myth of success, the hoarding of stolen Mama Earth, and all those real estate papers and payments, hiding in doorways, car seats, bus benches, without a place, away from your sheltered eyes, while Mama Earth fires rage right outside, and you close your windows and doors, heeding the warnings of sheltering in place, sheltering in place. So many of us can barely breathe, no longer having the privilege of a sheltered, safe space. In the colonial terror launched centuries ago, poor people made poor by colonial theft and the lie of ownership continue to slip in and out of your fake lie called non-profiteering and business improvement districts. The privilege of breathing, shelter beds and vouchers, saviors and charity complex, black and brown police terror leading to black and brown police murder, and then there is the lie of rent. And once again, I ask, how do you shelter in place when you have no place? How do you house people's politicers continue to practice the violent act of looking away? I don't want your pity. I don't want your crumbs. I want to close a door, shut a window, share the privilege of breathing. One more day to come. Anti-social workers and case manglers call me crazy, lazy, dumb, and a bum, because my knowledge don't come from the institution. Yeah, I'm a 6th grade dropout. It was not possible for me to keep going to school because I was too busy working, slanging art on the street, and joining the vendor nation as all my brothers and sisters all across Mama Earth continue to survive by any means necessary. That was not considered a job in the settler school eyes. My tired eyes rest. I take a sky breath from share of boots and loss of roots, from scattered paper, because evictions gotta be later. Sky breath means a moment of rest from my last arrest, from the scamlord's breath, from what my hustle and pimp expects, from this hotel bed, riding with small red pests. The world has lied to me. There is no abundance inside of me. Will I get a break? Will there be a moment away? Will I get a day that isn't filled with what I gotta take or die because of how high the stakes? Sky breath. Does the peacefulness include my death? I said, did the peacefulness include my death? Or just another exhausting day of hustle and pain and hope of a better way? I fly into that sky. I'm homeless. Dreaming I'm out of this motel mess, this backseat of car mess, this park bench, my own unshowered stench. Something has less stress. Home full. Home full. Instead of homeless. All right, family, so I'm not going to talk. I'm going to say one last thing, and I want my auntie sister to join me, and it is our anthem. We say, and brother Moot, and brother Israel, change won't come from a savior, a king, or an institution. Change will